So in the last weekend, we discussed about what is web application and what is single page application, what is multi-page application, differences between single page application and multi-page application. Then we have seen what is Angular, Angular JS versus Angular, Angular version history, Angular advantages, Angular building blocks, Angular architecture, and how to do environment setup using Angular. We discussed about TypeScript. Then in the TypeScript also, we have learnt about TypeScript variables. Right? Now, what is the where? What is the let keyword we have discussed? What is the where? What is the let keyword also we have discussed? Then after we discussed about where versus let keyword we discussed, where versus let, then arrays in the TypeScript, classes in the TypeScript, objects in the TypeScript, interfaces in the TypeScript, and modules in the TypeScript. These are the things we have learned from TypeScript. Then after we have seen Angular building blocks, components in the Angular, templates in the Angular, templates in the Angular, directives in the Angular. We discussed about component, we discussed about a template, we discussed about directives. So let's quickly summarize what we discussed in the Angular. So if you see some diagrams also available, Angular is a framework. Angular is a client-side framework which is used to develop front-end part of the application. Angular is a client-side framework which is used to develop front-end part of the application. In the Angular, we have support to develop a single page application. One page we are going to develop, and that page is going to render the data for the remaining requests. And we discussed about data binding also in the Angular. Data binding we can done in multiple ways. One is interpolation. Then next one is property binding. And the third one is event binding. By combining the property binding and event binding, we are able to achieve two-way data binding. We are able to achieve by using this data binding technique. And the simplified MVC pattern, model view component concepts are available. Angular supports cross-platform. Angular is very simple and expressive to develop the applications. Speed will be good. Performance of the application will be good when you go for Angular. Flexible development, maximum users, multiple users can access our applications at a time. Then next one, coming to architecture of the Angular. So this is Angular architecture. Component will be available. Component represents a small portion of our application. Component can send the data to the template. Template can send the data to the component. Template is a presentation file, that is a HTML file where we are going to write our presentation logic. How the data can be exchanged between the component and the template by using data binding. Data binding can be done in multiple ways: interpolation, property binding, event binding, and two-way data binding. Which component belongs to which template, that will be represented by using metadata. Which component belongs to which template will be represented by using metadata. Then next one, if you want to manipulate the DOM elements, then we are going to apply directives. Right? Next. So today, mainly we are going to understand how to work with services in the Angular, how to work with routing in the Angular, how to work with forms in the Angular, how to work with services in the Angular, how to work with routing in the Angular, how to work with forms in the Angular, then how to work with Ajax in the Angular, how to make the backend API calls, and how to develop a mini project. So today and tomorrow we are going to focus on the pending parts of the Angular. Up to now we have covered. Next, let's talk about services concept in the Angular. So now we are going to talk about services concept in the Angular. Service is used to write the reusable business logic. Services are used to write the reusable business logic. Good. Now, so when we develop the application, component will be available. When we develop the application, component will be available. Component will contain application logic. Component will contain the application logic. Now, here we don't write the business logic in the component. To write the business logic in the component, to write the business logic, we are going to use service concept in the Angular. To write the business logic, we are going to use service concept in the Angular. Now see here, template we know. Template is a HTML file. When you perform some operation, the template is going to talk to component. Component is a TypeScript class where we will write the logic to send the data to template, receive the data from the template. This component want to execute some business logic. The business logic we are going to write in the service class. Service is also a TypeScript class. Service is also a TypeScript class. Now, whenever we write the service, that service should be injected into component. Service will be injected into component by using dependency injection. Now, let's talk about what is a service here. Let's talk about what is service here. Service is a class which contains reusable business logic. In the Angular, service nothing but a class which contains reusable business logic. What kind of logics we can write in the service? If you want to do some data encryption, some data decryption, some validations, some calculations, REST API calls, etc. Such kind of business logics we are going to write in the service class. Service class logics we can access in one or more components. Whenever you have a logic in the service class, for example, I have created one service class in the Angular. Now in my application, there are multiple components are available. For example, this is login component, and I am having registration component, and I am having forgot password component available. These components will contain application logic. Business logic is different. So the business logic will be available in the service. My component can access the business logic by talking to these services. So one service class functions can be accessed by multiple components. That is what we are telling here. The service is a class which contains reusable business logic. Service class logics we can access in one or more components. If we keep the reusable set of properties and methods as part of service class, then we can access them from any component and from any other service available in the application. One service functionality can be accessed in the another service. One service functionality can be accessed by multiple components also. Now, how to represent this class as a service class? To represent our class as a service class, there we are going to use one decorator called @injectable. So to represent the class as a @component, we are going to use one annotation called @component annotation. So annotations are called as decorators in the Angular. To represent the class as a component, we are going to use @component. To represent the class as a service, we are going we need to import this injectable decorator from Angular core package. Okay. Now, in the real-time applications contains logic to backend REST APIs in service classes. Service classes will contain the logic to access the backend APIs. Now, so in our application, several components will be available, and for the components, we are going to write the business logic in the service. Service logic will contain the logic to access backend APIs. My backend API is running in a cloud platform. Now, This service class will contain the logic to access these backend APIs. How to represent class as a service? To represent class as a service, we are going to use @injectable. When your class is having @injectable, then that class can be injected into any other component. Component represents a small portion in the web page. Service is a TypeScript class which will contain the business logic. So generally in the real time, Angular service classes are TypeScript classes. Those TypeScript classes will contain the functions to access backend applications. Are you able to understand? TypeScript classes, these service classes will be injected into component. This service class can be injected into component. How the service class can be injected into component? Dependency injection. Service classes will be injected into component by using dependency injection. Now let us see the syntax of the service. Class, service, service class name. So to represent this class as a service, there is an annotation called @injectable. @injectable annotation to represent it is a service. But in the Angular, we don't call it as an annotation. In the Angular, we call it as a decorator. Injectable decorator available in which package? Injectable decorator is available in Angular core package. So we have to import that. Now, let's go to our Angular workspace. Let's go to Angular workspace, CMD, then code space dot. It will open VS Code IDE. So in the last class, we developed several applications. One registration page application we developed, and we have developed registration page application. We have developed
to create
Morning is called service demo application. New service demo application I'm going to create. So I want to create a service class and I want to show you. I don't want any routing. I want to use the CSS. Application is getting created. Let's wait for that. Now service class is like this. Service class will be represented as a provider. You can add the service as a provider in the component and get a instance of the service using dependency injection. How to inject this service class into the component? Inject is the annotation. So to represent the class as a service, injectable, if you want to inject it, then here we are going to use one annotation called @inject annotation. By using @inject annotation, we are going to inject it. @inject is like our @auto-void. In the Spring, we are going to use @auto-void annotation to perform the dependency injection. In the Angular, we are going to use @inject. Now see here, we have @auto-void in the Spring. @auto-void is equal to @inject in the Angular, which is used to perform the dependency injection. Which class can be injected by using @inject? If that class is a service. How to represent that class is a service? @injectable. @injectable means that is eligible for injection. How to inject? By using @inject annotation. Now let's try this. Project is created. Let's go inside this project, service demo. I have navigated inside the project. Now let's run this application. ng-serve-open. ng-serve-open. I'm trying to run my application. I'm giving "open." That means it is going to run the application and it is going to open the browser also. It is going to run the application and it is going to open browser also. By default, app component is executing. Now go to this app component. src app component index.html. Now index.html. This is app component. Now see here, this is app component message is printing. Now can I declare one variable in the app component to store the data? message is equal to good morning. I'm storing data into variable. Variable name is a message. How can I access this message in the HTML? How can I access this message in the HTML? By using interpolation. Interpolation.
Recording in progress.
Create the service class in the Angular. What is the annotation we are using? Sorry, what is the command we are using? Ng generate service. Ng generate service. Now, ng generate service. I want to create that class. Generate service. I'm creating a service with a name called message, which is a message service, which will give you a message to me. Ng generate service message. Now can you see? I have created message service. I have created message service. Now go here, app module. Inside that, can you see service is created? Can you see service is created? Whenever you create the service, it is having a decorator called @injectable. 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 Now, how can I write a function in this service? Can I write a function in the service? Function get message. Get a message. I'm going to write return good morning. I'm going to write a message. I'm going to write a function in the service, something like this, good morning. Function in the service, I'm writing good morning. Are you guys clear with my point? We can write the functions in the service. We can write the functions in the service. In that function, we can write our business logic. In that function, we can write our business logic. Service will be having a @injectable. Then we can write a function in the service. You don't need to specify the function keyword also. You can just write like this. I have written one function with a name called get message. It is equal to a method. Equal to a method. Now, I want to call this function from my component. My service is class. My service class is having available here message service. My service class is represented as a service by using injectable. Inside the service, I am writing one function with a name called get message. Now I want to call this function. Simple. In the Java, we are going to create the classes. One class want to call the another class. How we will do the one class is going to call the another class? Simple. First here we are going to create a controller. Then here you are going to create a service. How to represent a class as a service in the Spring? You will represent the class as a service by using @service, and you will represent that by using @controller. Then here you are going to represent the service. You are going to inject. How you will inject the service here? By using @auto wiring. You are going to inject by using @auto wiring. Here the class is message service. Here the class is message service. Here methods will be available. This is how we are going to write in the Java, right? Now let me remove it. Instead of service here in the Angular, I am using @injectable. @injectable. Instead of the controller here, I am using @component. @component. Instead of the auto wiring, I am using @inject. Just compare with your Java syntax. Just compare with your Java syntax. Then easily you can remember. In the Java also we are going to create the service classes and we are going to create the controllers. Services will contain the business logic, controller will contain the application logic. In the Angular, instead of the service, in the Angular we are using injectable. To represent one class as a service class, we are using injectable. Now, to represent our class as a controller, instead of using a controller annotation, we are using an annotation called component annotation. What is the annotation we are using? Component annotation we are using. To perform the dependency injection, in the Java we are using auto wiring. In the Angular we are using @inject. Component service. To represent class as a service, injectable. To represent the class as a component, @component. To inject a service into component, we are using @inject. Then component can call the service function. This is what we need to do. Are you guys clear with my point? What is the service? How to create a service? How to inject a service into component? Are you guys clear with my point? What is a service? Why we need to create service? How to create a service? How to inject a service into component? Services are the TypeScript classes in the Angular. What is a service? Service is a TypeScript class in the Angular. Services are used to write the business logic in the Angular applications. Client-side business logic we can write by using services. To represent class as a service, we will use @injectable decorator. @injectable decorator available in Angular core package. Now, service methods will be called in the component classes. To call the service methods, service object should be injected into component. To inject the service object into component, we are using @inject annotation. @inject annotation. Are you clear with this concept? Are you clear with this concept? How to create a service in the Angular? ng generate service. ng generate service which is going to ng generate service name which is going to create a service. Now let's inject this service into component.ts. Inside the component we are going to take a constructor. Inside the component we are going to take a constructor. Inside the constructor we can inject this service. Inside the constructors we can inject the services. Are you guys clear with this one? Now here we are going to create message service colon this message service. How to inject it? By using @inject. By using @inject. Now here you can specify type of that also by using @message service. Clear? Yes, I'm able to inject my service here. Now what I will do here now, message service is injected here. Now here you can call the service function methods constructor to perform the constructor injection. Now in the Spring we have setter injection, field injection, constructor injection, right? In the Angular we have directly constructor injection. In the Angular we have constructor injection. This dot message is equal to message service dot get message. This dot message is equal to message service dot get message. This dot message is equal to message dot get message. Like this we can call service method. We can call the service method in the component. Now let me give it as empty. Currently my message variable don't have anything. Now inside the constructor I'm injecting the service. This dot message, I'm initializing this component variable is equal to message dot get message. It is going to call service class function. It is going to call the service class function. Let's run this application now. See this. Are we really able to call the service method from the component? Are we really able to call the service method from the component? Compiled successfully. I'm getting good morning message. From which method I'm getting this message, guys? Do I have the logic in the component to display the data in that? Do I have the logic of displaying the good morning in the component? Where is the component message available? This is good morning. Let me change it to welcome to services. Let me change it to welcome to Angular services. I'm changing this method implementation. Welcome to Angular services. I'm changing this in the service. Then that function is coming. So can I say my component is calling service function now? Can I say my component is calling the service function? Where it is calling the service function? Inside the constructor. I'm doing a constructor injection. Now see, I have created a service. Inside service, class is available, export class message service. Inside the message service, injectable annotation is there. Then there is one constructor. In that service, I have created one function, get message. Get message. What is this get message doing? It is returning welcome to Angular services. There is a function which is returning some value. Now I have a component. To represent the class as a component, I have @component annotation. To represent the class as a component, I have @component annotation. Now inside this component, I have a variable called message variable. Do I have any data in the message variable? No data available in the message variable. I want to store some data into message variable by calling the service class function. In order to call the service class, first I need to inject the service class. For that I am taking a constructor. I am performing constructor injection. Now inside the constructor I am telling inject message service class. This is a variable colon data type. Inject this class into this variable. Inject a message service class into this variable. So by using this variable, you can call that class method. So this is the class, this is the variable. Inject, dependency injection. Now this dot message is used to initialize current class variable. This dot message is used to initialize the current class variable. This dot message is equal to message service dot get message. So I am calling service class method. Whatever that method is returning, I am storing into this variable. This variable I am accessing by using interpolation. So when you access that, it is printing the data on the template. Template getting the data from the component getting the data by calling service method. I hope you are clear with this example. How we are using services in the Angular. Yes, na? Service provided in root app.module.ts. Please repeat. What I need to repeat, man? Because Kumar, what you are not able to understand? Because can you unmute? What is your doubt?
Yeah, hi sir.
Yeah.
The last part which you said, like which you're taking the variable as a service class, that part.
No. This is a variable. In this variable, I want to store the value. Who will give the value? Service method. I want to call the service method. Service method is returning me some data. That data I am storing into this variable. This dot message is equal to message service dot get message. So this is variable. This is initialization. Initialization means storing the value. I am calling another class method. That method will give the value. That value storing into this variable.
Okay, and that value which is storing, we can show it in our template, like in our,
that is interpolation. So this variable is available in the component. From the component, can I send the data to template?
yes.
From the component, can I send the data to template? How I am sending the data from component to template? Variable is available. This variable, if I access by using interpolation, that variable data will be displayed there. Na? Now you see that variable data is displaying here. Actually, who is giving this data? Where this data is, from where this data is coming actually in the backend? Service layer. Service layer giving to component giving to template. Right. Now, so what we have done is, we have taken one template. In the template, I have taken interpolation, which is called message. Am I right? This is the variable available. Who is giving this variable to this template? This is a HTML file. This is a template. Who is giving this value to this template? Can I say component? Can I say component is giving this value? Yes. So this is class. is the class component. Inside the component, what I am doing, I am calling message is equal to service dot get message. Can I say that I'm calling service class function here? Right? Now what is the service here? Service class is available. In this service class there is a function class message service. Class message service. Here I am having a function get message. In the get message logic. Okay. How to represent this as a service? At the rate service. Annotation at the rate injectable. At the rate injectable. Here at the rate component. Service class is injected into component class. To perform the dependency, we are performing the dependency injection. Now component is calling the service function. Service function returning the value to the component. Component is sending the data to the template. This is what happening here. Understood? Guys, all of you understood what happened here? Service. Service is a class where we will contain the business logic. To represent the class as a service, we are using injectable. Service class is injected to component. Component calling the service function. Then component is having a variable, storing the data to the variable. That variable we are accessing in the template by using interpolation. Very good. Now in future, what we will do in the service? In the future, what we will do in the service? Currently, one service is just returning some dummy value, string value. In future, what this service will do? REST call. It is going to make a REST API call. It is going to access the backend logic. We will see that. Currently, my service class is returning a some dummy value. My service class is returning a dummy value. Just welcome to Angular services. Tomorrow, can I get the data from the REST API? Can my service call the REST API? Can my service call the REST API? Yes. Calling the REST API is a component logic. Calling the REST API is a service logic. Calling the REST API is a component logic, or calling the REST API is a service logic. Calling the REST API is a service logic, because calling the REST API is a business logic. Business logic we are going to write in the service layer. You got my point? Yes. Good. Good. So with this we understood what is a service, how to create a service in the Angular. Then very small concept is available, guys. Pipes. Before going to pipes, so do you have any questions on the service topic? I just told you basic syntax of what is service. Again, when we are going to integrate Spring Boot with the Angular, then we are going to use those services. Yeah. Abdul Sheikh, what is your doubt related to service?
Here I see you are injecting provided in hyphen root. So that says that
so this
it is available.
Yeah, it is available for everybody. So in any component you can inject it.
So before using that, we have to
Yes.
we have to import it.
Yes, we have to import it now. We have to import now. So here Angular is available, service available. When you go for component, the service is imported. When I do control space, it is importing. Suppose for example, if it is not available, then I will get an exception. Then control space, I will import it. Then import statement is added.
So it just exports that message out of all the components.
Exactly. In whichever the component you want this message, you can call it. Can I create one more component and can I call the service method?
Yeah, definitely. When you import it.
Yes, we can call it. We can create one more component. In that component also we can inject the service. That means One component can be one service can be imported into multiple components. Right.
Okay.
Right, sir. And next, Om Handy. Hi, Om Handy. What's your doubt? Sushmita, do you have any question? Good. Abdul Sheikh question is clarified. Yep. Next one. Anybody not able to understand the concept of the Angular? Concept of the service in the Angular. Look at the diagram, you will get the clarity. How our application is executed. Look at the diagram, you will understand how the service I am using. How I am using service in Angular. If you look at the diagram, you will get the clarity. Service is used to write the business logic. Service used to write the business logic. Clear, guys? Fine. So in future, we are going to write some logic in the service because our backend application will be running in the cloud platform. In order to access the backend logic in our service class functions, we will write the logic. Service will be talking to backend functionality. Currently, my service having a just dummy string return value, but in future we are going to implement this service logic to perform backend operation. So template will send the data to component. Component will call the service. Service will call the backend. So like this, we are going to do this. Angular services. Angular services. So Angular services are used to develop the business logic. Business logic can be anything. It may be accessing the backend API, or it may be performing some operation, some calculation, some manipulation of the data. That can be anything. That can be anything. Angular services. Angular services. Services are used to write the business logic. Services are used to write business logic. One service can be called from multiple components. Services are used to write business logic. Perfect.
Hey,
Next one. Next topic. Guys, there is a small topic in the Angular which is called pipes. Pipes are used to transform the data before displaying. I want to transform the data from uppercase to lowercase to uppercase, and I want to format the numbers,
hey.
currencies, percentage, date, JSON. That kind of
Gunther depende
transformation we can do on the data by using pipes concept. Pipes are used to transform the value into user expected format. Pipes can be invoked by using a expression through pipe symbol interpolation binding. Now, I want to display my data. I want to display my data in uppercase format. Now simply pipe uppercase. So now you see currently here how my message is printing. It is printing in the camel case format. Currently the message is printing in the camel case format. Let me run my application. Service layer giving the message in the camel case format. Welcome to Angular services. The data coming in the camel case format. Now you see the data came in the camel case format. I want to convert this data into uppercase. Before displaying only, I want to convert the data into uppercase. Wherever you are displaying the data, here let's write a pipe. Let's write a pipe. Let's use uppercase. Let's write a pipe and uppercase. Can you see data converted to uppercase? Can you see data converted to uppercase? Uppercase? Yes. Similarly, can we convert the data to lowercase? Same message I want to print once again. Same message I want to print once again with lowercase. Same variable I want to print. Now see the difference? Welcome to Angular services. It is printing the data in the uppercase. It is printing the data in the lowercase. So these are called pipes concept. These are called pipes concept. I have given some example also. I have given one example also. Here class is having city, salary, number, person data, date object is available. Now city I am displaying as it is, salary I am displaying as it is, number, time, person, city uppercase, city lowercase, city 2:6, salary currency USD, currency INR, short date, medium date, date format. You can format the data. You can format the data or you can transform the data by using this pipes concept. By using this pipes concept. Now let us create one simple project. Let us create one simple project using pipes. Come out of this project. CD. We are out of this project now. We are out of the services project. Let's create one project for the pipes. Ng new app pipes. My project name itself I am giving as a pipes. Ng new app pipes. Creating a new project with a name called Ng new new app name. App name I should give as pipes directly. Ng new pipes app name. I don't want any routing. Yes, just create the project. Guys, project creation is little time taking process because it has to install all the Angular packages and the node packages for our project. It is creating the project.
Hi sir, Abdullah.
Yes, project got it created. Now go to this project. CD space pipes. CD space pipes. Guys, 1 second. One of the student is not able to join the class. Guys, give me 1 minute. Yeah. All right, guys. Project is created now. Let us go to our project. Go to app component. App component.ts. Can we declare some variables in the app component? Can we declare some variables in the app component now? Come on. Declare some variables in the app component and access those variables in the template. Those variables values we can format. Those variables values we can format by using pipes. Pipes are used to transform the data. In the given document, I have shared the notes with you in the website also. In that document, I have given an example also for the pipes, guys. I have given one example also for the pipes concept. Alright. Now here, I'm declaring some variables in my component. Let's go to component. Remove this title. Let us declare some variables. So city is one variable. Salary is one variable. N is one variable. Person is one variable. Date is one variable. I have declared these variables in the component. What are the variables available in the component? Can we access them directly in the template? Yes, we can access those variables in the template directly. Guys, let's take a 5 minutes break, guys. I'm getting one office call. So can we start in 5 minutes? I need to address that call. Today there is a release in my project. Okay, let's take a 5 minutes break. We'll continue. At 10:15 I will start the class. It is 10 now, 10:08. I will start the class in 10:50. Sorry for the interruption. So let's take a break. We'll start at 10:50.
Recording stopped.